Tonight, a £51 million court case against the Scottish Government is thrown out. Waste giant Biffa launched the lawsuit over a failed can and bottle recycling scheme. Also on tonight's programme, questions over the future of one of Scotland's oldest football clubs.
The uncertainty that seems to be changing on a daily basis at the moment, there is a real worry about the fans, about the future of their club.
Hamilton Academicals is facing the threat of insolvency over an unpaid loan, but the new owners say they'll fight on. Calls for teachers to be given mandatory training on how to support autistic children at school.
And in sport, we'll look ahead to the magic of the Scottish Cup. Could we see a huge giant killing in Ayrshire?
Obviously quite a few Celtic fans in the garage, so you can get the wind up a wee bit, but it's all part of it.
I'm Laura Goodwin, this is Reporting Scotland. A £51 million lawsuit against the Scottish Government over a failed recycling scheme has been thrown out. Waste firm Biffa signed up to play a key role in the bottle deposit return scheme, but the company says it lost out after the plans collapsed in 2023. The firm claimed a letter from then Minister Lorna Slater was akin to a guarantee the scheme would go ahead and prompted them to invest millions. Our political correspondent Phil Sim has more.
The deposit return scheme would have seen Scots pay an extra 20p for a can or bottle of juice, getting a refund when they were returned for recycling. Biffa was set to play a big role collecting and processing those drinks containers, but the plans were beset by delays and difficulties and were put on hold in 2023 following a dispute between the Scottish and UK governments over internal market rules. Biffa said that left them out of pocket and they sued the Scottish Government for £50 million.
What followed was a fairly remarkable week of evidence at the Court of Session. It could have been a dry dispute about business correspondence and intergovernmental dispute mechanisms. Instead, it was punctuated by claims of secrecy, betrayal and sabotage.
The former Scottish Secretary Alistair Jack accused the Scottish Government of being incompetent and utterly irresponsible in its dealings with businesses. Former Green Minister Lorna Slater in turn accused him of single-handedly undermining the scheme to give the SNP a black eye. But ultimately, this was about points of law, not politics. The case turned on a letter sent by Ms Slater to Biffa Chief Executive Michael Topham in 2022, which stated the government's unwavering commitment to delivering the project on schedule. Mr Topham told the court this was akin to a guarantee that it would go ahead, and was completely foundational in the decision to invest millions of pounds. But Judge Lord Sanderson said it was difficult to see how a reasonable person could take the letter this way. He called it wishful thinking, on a par with the alchemy of transmuting base metals into gold. The judge kept out of the politics and said the former ministers giving evidence had done so truthfully and in good faith. Biffa said it noted the judgment and is reviewing its position with legal advisers. There is still the possibility of an appeal, so the Scottish Government didn't want to comment at all. The case has been thrown out, but the Scottish Greens highlighted just how much waste has also been discarded in the years since, saying far more would have been recycled under a deposit return scheme. A UK-wide version is due to come in next year. Perhaps some lessons can be salvaged from the discarded Scottish plans.
And Phil joins us now. So what lessons can be learnt from this?
I think one takeaway would be just how difficult it is to launch big new initiatives like this, particularly when you're going first. There are a tremendous number of hurdles to overcome. Lorna Slater talked in court about there being multiple existential threats to this project right from the start. Another thing would be about the relationship between politics and business, because it is ultimately businesses which have to deliver things like this on the ground, and indeed quite often they have invested potentially substantial sums of money in them. And the final thing would be about the relationship between the Scottish and UK governments, because this thing ultimately fell apart due to the Internal Markets Act, which has long been extremely controversial with the Scottish Government. And I think ultimately you need to have politicians at Holyrood, at Westminster, and indeed businesses working in lockstep if you are going to get a scheme like this off the ground.
OK, Phil, many thanks indeed. Hamilton Accies is one of Scotland's oldest football clubs, and there have been many highs over its long history. But amid financial turmoil, there are questions over its future. This afternoon, the new owners say they'll fight any attempts to put the club into administration. Our reporter James Chain has more.
Hamilton Accies has seen happier times. It has a 152-year history to draw on, but it's had a dramatic day. This latest controversy piled on top of previous worries that extend even to where they play their games. Last summer, they moved from this, their home of 24 years, amid a row over stadium ownership. But it's just got worse. If you went on Hamilton Accies' website this morning, you couldn't access anything except this statement. It said the club was at risk of administration following a default under lending arrangements, and it claimed there was uncertainty regarding the true ownership of shares. By this afternoon, another statement, this one from the club itself, saying that first statement had been posted by a finance company, which stepped in last year to pay players' wages. It went on to say any attempt to bring it into administration would be met with an injunction. For fans and locals, it's yet more uncertainty surrounding a football team that serves as a cornerstone of their community.
I'm not surprised. Everything's going to get in administration in Hamilton, I think, by the looks of things. But fingers crossed.
I think the actual leagues should look at it and say, we could help, they could actually help, and what do you call it again, keep football in this area, you know.
I used to go and watch them, but I wouldn't pay the money. They're not even playing Hamilton now.
And concern for the club from local leaders too.
It's a very uncertain time. I have real concerns for the fans, it's not just more than a livelihood, it is their life, it's their way of life, it's their family traditions, generations of families, 150-year history. We need to plead with the SFA. The SFA need to let the new ownership get their feet under the desk, feet under the table, sort what they need to sort.
The situation is complicated and unusual, but those who've seen these things before say there's still hope.
It is very complex and sort of from a financial point of view. The club's in intensive care, but it's still got a chance of getting some form of resurrection in due course, even if it goes into administration.
It could take time to resolve, but the next fixture looms as Accies turn their sights towards Peterhead tomorrow. James Chain reporting Scotland, Hamilton.
The biggest teachers' union is to ask its members to vote for a second time on whether to strike over their workload. There was a turnout of less than 50% in a ballot that closed earlier this week. That means the union can't take action, even though an overwhelming number of those who took part backed striking. The second ballot is likely to start before the end of the month. The Scottish Government insists it's committed to dealing with teachers' concerns. As the countdown continues to the World Cup, disabled Scotland fans are calling on FIFA to treat them with fairness and respect when it comes to ticket allocation. Concerns have been raised after it was revealed just 6 wheelchair spaces will be made available for Tartan Army members for Scotland's match against Brazil in Miami. On top of that, their carers are to be charged full price. FIFA have yet to comment. Here's our Sports News correspondent, Chris McLaughlin.
It's all a bit of a blur.
I know.
The whole game is just like a bit of a blur.
Stephen Reside from Rutherglen talking about that game against Denmark last year. He has cerebral palsy but rarely misses a Scotland match.
You'd finally done it, and 28 years of hurt, if you like, was over.
But for Stephen and others like him, the hurt continues. This is the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, where Scotland will play Brazil on June the 24th. Capacity over 65,000. But Wheelchair Scotland fans only have access to 6 tickets.
300 wheelchair spaces in the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Now, that equates to 2% of the wheelchair spaces that are available to Scotland supporters. Now, my opinion is that if able-bodied supporters are getting 5.7% of the stadium available to them, then we should at least be getting 5.7% of the wheelchair spaces.
Stephen is going anyway. He says if he can't get a ticket, he'll spend 3 weeks in Florida's theme parks. The SFA say they are in dialogue with FIFA, and Stephen says the governing body have been helpful in reaching out to him and others like him. But he has this message for FIFA.
You claim to be an inclusive organisation. Include us. That would be the message. Increase the number to reflect that of what able-bodied fans are getting. I think Mr. Infantino said in an interview today, I feel disabled. Show empathy for those people that you claim to feel like, and don't make it almost impossible for them to get to game.
Chris McLaughlin, reporting Scotland.
A US Coast Guard ship involved in the seizure operation of a Russian-flagged oil tanker in the North Atlantic has docked in Aberdeen. The Monroe arrived in the city's South Harbour this morning. The US accused the Marinera of breaking sanctions by carrying oil for Venezuela, Russia and Iran. It's been sitting in the Murray Firth since last week. The White House has been asked for comment. Training teachers on how to support autistic children in school should be mandatory, according to the National Autistic Society Scotland. The charity says it hears of too many experiences where pupils' autism is misunderstood as bad behaviour by staff who don't have specialist training. The Scottish Government says teachers already undertake additional support needs training during initial teacher education. Suzanne Allen reports.
School was incredibly hard for 27-year-old Becca Galloway. She didn't always understand social situations and found classrooms loud and chaotic.
Because of the things like the constant change, and I think that's where my kind of sensory challenges started kicking in terms of noise and people and the constant moving around of everybody.
Autistic people often have sensory issues, where noise is amplified and lights seem too bright. Becca wasn't diagnosed with autism until she was 14. No support was offered. Like a lot of autistic people, she found friendships confusing.
There was a time we went to London on like an English school trip, and they used that to target me in a kind of bullying campaign. We'd be in shops in the middle of nowhere and I'd be paying and they would run off while I was paying. They would lock me out of their hotel room. All this crazy stuff.
Teachers were on the trip, but Becca didn't tell them as she felt they wouldn't understand. What followed was a slide into crisis. Becca was admitted to a psychiatric ward because the link between her mental health and autism hadn't been made, until an occupational therapist, or OT, did.
And I ended up being admitted to Sky House, the psychiatric unit, when I was 16, and I spent 3.5 months there. There was an OT who worked there who was the first person to ever consider my autism as potentially being part of the problem.
It may have been more than a decade since Becca was at school, but the National Autistic Society Scotland say the situation has got worse. It wants a learning disabilities and neurodivergence bill introduced to Parliament, which would mean mandatory training for school staff.
So we think it's really, really important that the teachers get that training, so in terms that they can support autistic children and young people within the classroom. We also need to make sure that classroom environments work for autistic children and young people as well. Rebecca's story is not uncommon, sadly, and we hear from autistic people and families every day really, really struggling.
Scotland's largest teaching union told us, although well-intentioned, what's needed is more money and more ASN teachers. A Scottish Government spokesperson said, all teachers already undertake additional support needs ASN training, which includes conditions such as autism during initial teacher education, and it is a requirement to meet General Teaching Council standards. Local authorities oversee the delivery of education and have a statutory duty to identify, provide and review the support they provide for pupils with additional support needs in their community. Becca is now thriving. She's studying music at Edinburgh Napier University and works as a volunteer with a charity. Life is on the up. Suzanne Allen, reporting Scotland.
The Conservative leader says Nigel Farage is doing her spring cleaning after the dramatic defection of a senior frontbencher. Kemi Badenoch was speaking on a visit to Aberdeen after Robert Jenrick defected to Reform UK. Meanwhile, the party's new leader in Scotland, Lord Offord, says he doesn't expect more Tory politicians to switch here. Our political correspondent Andrew Kerr has more.
Survival training, a useful skill. In Aberdeen, the Conservative Party leader was drilled on emergency situations.
Here he is, Robert Jenrick.
Kemi Badenoch sacked Robert Jenrick yesterday before he defected to Reform UK. She says Nigel Farage has been doing her spring cleaning and was asked if she expected further defections.
No, and the fact is, we are a strong, united team. We're stronger since he left because he simply wasn't a team player. And I think people can see that we're talking about the issues that matter to them, the economy, how we can make their lives better. All Reform are doing is talking about themselves.
Reform's new Scottish leader was being introduced yesterday when news about Robert Jenrick's sacking emerged. Ahead of the Holyrood election, he said he doesn't expect more defections here.
I think most people should have made up their mind now where they stand. And I think at the end of the day, we've now got 16 weeks to the Holyrood election. Our 73 candidates, when you see them, are really quite an interesting group of people. Some of them have not even been members of political parties before, and there's certainly not any more Tory defectors coming.
Robert Jenrick says he wants to unite the right, but there are deep divisions ahead of the election, allowing the SNP to ride high.
Reform are fighting with the Labour Party, as I can see it, for second place, a distant second place, and it's for the Labour Party, the Conservative Party and the Lib Dems to explain why they're all shedding votes to Nigel Farage whilst the SNP continues to command the trust of the people of Scotland.
The Prime Minister was also in Scotland yesterday, his visit overshadowed by the so-called psychodrama, but Labour dismissed Reform.
Well, the infighting and chaos on the right of British politics now makes the fall of Rome look like an episode of The Archers. The truth is, it doesn't matter whether they wear a rosette for Reform or a rosette for the Conservative Party, they're still the self-same people who have failed this country.
Reform UK seem to be able to drive the agenda. Opponents hope that will soon change. Andrew Kerr, reporting Scotland.
Artificial intelligence is being used to research seals at Newborough Beach in Aberdeenshire. It's a protected site with hundreds of seals hauling out at the mouth of the Eithne estuary. One scientist has found a way of safely using drones and AI to learn more about them. Rachel Bell reports.
This is Newborough Beach, a northeast beauty spot and home to hundreds and hundreds of seals. Keeping a close eye on them is marine biologist Claire Stainfield.
The seals here, they've only recently started to use the area. If you talk to anyone from about 50 years ago, there was only about 10, 20 seals on the beach. Now in their peak, they're over 3,000.
Claire is using a drone to monitor their movements and their numbers. Drones aren't allowed here as this is a protected site, but she's been given special permission for her research. She's looking at whether rising tourist numbers are impacting the seal population.
My research is showing that if we stick to the south side of the beach, the disturbance is really minimal of what we do on this side compared to if someone walks along the north side or something happens on the north side.
Back in the office, it's time to process the information from the drone. Claire is recruiting the help of artificial intelligence.
Here's a really good example of how it's streamlining. This is roughly 2,500 seals in this photo here. So this would on average take me about maybe 3 hours to process. The model can do it in less than a minute. Like, I'm talking about seconds.
AI hasn't been a quick fix. Claire has spent hours training it.
This is one seal here, but you can see it's just a bunch of shadows and waves. So it's taken a lot of time and a lot of effort to be able to get it to this, where it resembles, you can see this perfectly segmented seal with its flippers.
Claire's AI tool is specifically trained to work at Newborough, but she thinks it could have much wider uses.
What the real hope for it is that it could be adapted to other sites or adapted to other places. So drones in ecology are really taking off. People are using them much more. So having a tool that can be used alongside the drones would really, really help with a lot of industries that are wanting to use drones.
Rachel Bell, reporting Scotland, Newborough.
Well, coming up later on the news at 7, Monty Python and Fawlty Tower star John Cleese gives his views on modern comedy.
People are so frightened of offence now. And I don't get it because people of my generation are constantly offended. But we just shrug.
Right, time to get the sport with Jane, and it's shaping up to be an exciting weekend of cup action.
It is my favourite round of the Scottish Cup, I have to say, Laura. Yeah, it's the 4th round of the Scottish Cup and it gets underway this evening. It's at this stage of the competition where the headlines can really be made with lower league clubs looking for a famous giant killing. Could we see the likes at Ibrox tonight as League 2 side Annan take on Rangers? Well, Jonathan Sutherland looks ahead.
So what chance of a Scottish Cup shock this evening? Absolutely no chance as far as the bookmakers are concerned, and you can understand their thinking. Annan Athletic are currently 7th in League 2. They'll have a 41-year-old playing in midfield in the form of player-manager Willie Gibson, and they haven't actually played a match this year due to postponements. In sharp contrast, Rangers are riding high, back in the title race. They're 3rd in the top flight, and under manager Danny Roll, they've only lost one match domestically since he arrived in October. But shocks do still happen in this venerable competition. Just last season, of course, Rangers dumped out of the Scottish Cup by Championship side Queen's Park. How will it unfold this evening? Find out on Radio Scotland. Sports Sound on air from 7 o'clock. And join me for highlights 11:30 on BBC One.
Well, there couldn't be much more of a David and Goliath clash than Auchinleck Talbot of the West of Scotland League against 42-time Scottish Cup winners Celtic. Sheila McLaren's been finding out how the Ayrshire side have been preparing for the big match.
It's been another busy week at work for car mechanic and Talbot midfielder Austin Syme as he juggles full-time hours in the garage with training for the biggest game of his life.
Go to training and up early in the morning for work again. It can be hard and challenging, but when you get that win at the weekend, it kind of makes it all worth it. Obviously quite a few Celtic fans in the garage, so been getting wound up a wee bit, but it's all part of it. So no, everyone's happy for me and looking forward to watching us on the telly.
Talbot have already gone through 4 rounds, including a win over local rivals Cumnock and a 4-0 defeat of Dumbarton last time out. So can they throw a spanner in the works this weekend?
I'm just going to try our best to go out there, score as many as we can and concede as little as we can.
Man on! Well done, Connor!
Tommy Sloan has been manager of Talbot for more than 2 decades, and he's relishing pitting his wits against another old head in Martin O'Neill.
Marvellous to be up against him actually, in another dugout, so something I probably never thought would happen. So from that point, look, we're just looking forward to it. It's a one-off game.
The Ayrshire side had hoped to stage the tie at their 4,000 capacity Beechwood Park, but the match has been moved to Kilmarnock's Rugby Park.
The frustration is that Hearts are played here, Celtic. People feel that Celtic should have played here, but these things are out with the control. I know you've asked other people, could they win? Whoever anyone supports, you always go into a cup game especially, there's a chance.
It's 11 against 11, so we keep our fingers crossed that we make it something out of it.
Down here I think we had that a chance, we might have got a wee chance. But at Rugby Park, no, I think there'll be too much for us. When you take into consideration, when Celtic play us on Sunday, and the Thursday they go to Bologna, and Saturday we go to Pollock up in the west of Glasgow, so you can see the difference.
There's no doubt the gulf between the two clubs is vast, and stunning the Premiership champions on Sunday would be the biggest shock in Scottish Cup history. Sheila McLaren, reporting Scotland.
Well, there could also be a cup cracker at East End Park and a tie that reunites even Neil Lennon and David Gray. Lennon is the manager of Championship side Dunfermline, but he used to be in charge at Hibernian, where David Gray was his captain. Gray is now the head coach of the Easter Road side, and the pair will be in opposite dugouts tomorrow in a match you can watch live here on BBC One Scotland.
He was very professional, and he took on the responsibility of being captain very well, and the players gravitated to him. He was a very good player, and everyone talks about the goal he scored in the cup final, which obviously is folklore now. He scored some really important goals for me in Europe and in domestic games as well. He was so committed, loved to tackle, and he was pretty consistent.
I thought Neil Lennon was the perfect appointment at that time and exactly what the club needed. He kept me as club captain, so I was his captain. But the one thing that he was very good at was his man management. You know, he had a way of making you feel between 1:30 and 3 o'clock going into every single game that you're the best player you could be. The club's in a very good position. The game plan was there, ready to go. That everything was about winning all the time.
And finally, an injury blow for Premiership leaders' Hearts ahead of the title run-in, with Cammy Devlin ruled out for 6 to 8 weeks. The influential midfielder suffered an ankle injury right at the end of their win over St Mirren on Wednesday night, and he limped off. Hearts play Falkirk in the Cup tomorrow. And I should just say there's a rugby game this evening, a big one for Edinburgh in the Champions Cup. They play Bath.
OK, Jane, thank you very much indeed. If you are going to be out and about at the weekend, Judith, how is the weather shaping up?
Not looking too bad compared to last weekend. Next weekend, though, we're in for, looks like we could be in for another cold spell, so watch the space.
Oh, OK.
How's that, though? No, we're like Shetland when the sun is shining, blue skies there. And in the north as well, we saw the Aurora Borealis making an appearance earlier on, something magical to start the weekend off. Now let's take a wee look at the pressure chart. This low pressure system filling in, losing any energy, but it is still going to bring some showers to western Scotland this evening. Then a southeasterly flow, and this warm front getting caught up in that flow, bringing thicker cloud and rain to eastern Scotland on Sunday. So there's some bits and pieces of rain, but still a lot of dry weather. Showers in the west gradually easing as we head through tonight. A lot of dry weather, clear spells. The clear skies will be in the north as clouds starts to increase from the south. We'll see a widespread frost developing across northern Scotland. That's already the case, actually. Temperatures dropping away here. Mist and fog as well, especially around the Great Glen area. And then another pulse of rain moving up into the borders later tonight. Temperatures are around about 2-3 Celsius for many of us, but much lower in the north. Into tomorrow, that frost first thing in the north, but dry and sunny. Any mist and fog could be quite stubborn to clear across northern Scotland. That pulse of rain in the east gradually making its way northwards, but dry in the west. Come the afternoon, a bright, breezy day for Shetland, some sunny spells. The first signs of some showery rain making its way into Orkney tomorrow afternoon with a fresh southeasterly wind. I think we'll hang on to a lot of cloud for eastern Scotland with some rain, quite murky conditions at times as well. Eventually something brighter coming into the border area, so it will feel cold underneath all that cloud and rain. A bit of a breeze down towards the southwest, breaking up the clouds though, and the west coast seeing the best of any sunshine. Sky, the Western Isles, up across the northwest Highlands. And as we head into tomorrow evening, that rain continuing to track northwards, dry and clear for most of us for a time during the overnight period. More mist and fog reforming, especially across northern Scotland. A scattering of light showers towards the west coast. Then it's Sunday, starts off dry with some early sunshine, quite a chilly start as well. Then cloud increasing from the south, and you can just see that rain skirting into eastern areas in that southeasterly flow. But I think the best of the sunshine is still destined for the north. Could feel cold in the north under any mist and fog. That's your forecast.
You did, thank you. We'll enjoy it whilst it's here. No
Absolutely.
More thank you very much indeed. Now tonight's main news again. A court has thrown out a £51 million lawsuit brought by the waste firm Biffa against the Scottish Government over its failed deposit return scheme. And that's where we leave you. I'll be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. Until then, from everyone on the team, enjoy the rest of your evening and have a great weekend when it comes. Bye-bye.